similar to the Mavic 2.
Mhm.
The Mavic 2, just you fly that thing anywhere.
Mm.
It was easy to fly.
Yeah.
Inspire 2 can have its moments.
Yeah.
Sometimes she can be a bit twitchy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's obviously a bigger unit, so it's going to get knocked about a bit. And now I come to the Mavic 3, whether it
Yes.
be a 3, the 3 Cine, the 3E, the 3 Classic, they all
Yeah.
fly the same,
Yeah.
twitchy,
Yeah. True.
twitchy and aggressive.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only one.
And we're live.
Hello,
Hello.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Hey,
Alex.
look, I'm somewhere different, and I've
You
got ears.
are. Yes, you do. And I seem to be losing ears, so we've
You're
swapped.
losing ears, and I've
Yeah.
gained ears.
Yeah, there we
Well, so
go.
look, where am I?
Yeah. There we go. You're in the Hammer
I'm
office.
I am in the office. Yes, I
Yes.
am in the office today. So I don't need a background because I've actually got kind of, you know,
Yeah. You've
an
got a
emissions
physical one.
background and a bit of curtain.
A bit of curtain. Yeah.
Won't worry about the curtain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Cool.
there we go. There we
There,
are.
there we are.
So
Hmm.
what are we talking about today, Varun?
Oh, we are talking about DJI's new flagship drone. I don't know if it's the flagship yet, but we can call it that maybe. The Mavic 3 RTK, Enterprise RTK,
Yep.
and
What's it
we
versus?
we're gonna compare it with the Phantom 4 RTK.
So basically, it's the Phantom 4 RTK versus the Mavic 3E.
There we go.
They're going to punch it out
Yes,
live on
it's
our
gonna be a
podcast.
it's gonna be a boxing match. This one.
It's going to be a scrap, I reckon.
Yeah.
It's going to be a ruck, like
Yeah.
Friday night at the pub.
Yeah. Yeah. We just need a ding, ding, ding every round.
It's obviously depending on which pub you go to.
Yeah.
I don't frequent
Yeah.
rough pubs.
Mm.
No, or haven't done for a long time
And
anyway.
and we mean bars for our American audience. Yeah.
Yes, or a
Yeah.
bar.
Yeah. Or a bar. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, or a bar.
Mhm.
So, where do we begin?
Where should we start? Yeah. So I guess we could compare these drones, one by one on different parameters.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
DJI have definitely changed their form factor
mhm.
in the last few years. I think gone are the days of the kind of star shape,
Mhm.
which was the Phantom range.
Yeah.
And I think they are moving towards a new format.
Yeah.
Which all started really with the innovation of the original Mavic, which was
Mm.
their first, yeah,
Foldable.
their first foldable drone.
Yeah.
Great little
Yeah.
rig,
Yeah.
good fun. You could smash that thing around. I mean, the camera quality wasn't great, but things have come on leaps and bounds since then. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good summary because it's almost DJI always had like these two different categories of
mm,
drones where you had like the large drones for the serious mapping people, and the star-shaped, and then you had your you know, the Mavics, which were smaller, foldable, but maybe not as equipped to do mapping, and
yeah,
they were more for the inspection world.
yeah.
Now they're trying to bring those two worlds
They're
together.
kind of amalgamating the two, aren't they? They're introducing their enterprise range into the Mavic era. All started with the Mavic 2, didn't it? I don't think there was never a Mavic original Mavic Enterprise.
Um,
I
no,
don't
I
think.
think it was all just Mavic, right? So it's
Yeah.
Mavic. The first one was just called Mavic Pro, and then it was Mavic 2 Pro.
Oh, you had the Mavic
Um,
Air as
yeah, the
well.
Mavic Air, yes, the smaller version. So
Yeah.
so so the Mavics are coming for the Phantoms, huh?
They are. They are indeed. So
Yeah.
that is where our punch out begins, I
Yes.
reckon.
Yes, let's do it.
So, okay, where do we start? What's the
So,
difference? What's the difference between the two?
well, the form factor, we know that the Phantom 4 is obviously a larger form factor than the Mavic 3 Enterprise. The
That it
Mavic
is
3
indeed.
Enterprise is
Yep.
foldable, just like other Mavics. So in that sense, if portability is key, then the Mavic 3E wins. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
the P4 is certainly the bigger aircraft.
yeah,
Obviously smaller than an M300,
yeah,
but like an M300 round everywhere. It's
Yeah.
it's a monster. We know that
Yeah.
for a fact. We've got one, and
Yeah.
it is like a flying tank.
Yeah.
So yeah, P4 versus M3E on form factor.
Yep.
I would say Mavic 3E
Yep.
wins.
I would also
Smaller,
say, yeah.
foldable.
Yeah.
So I guess next up, talk about shutter speed.
Yeah.
Shutter speed. So the Phantom 4,
Hmm.
2-second intervals.
Right.
The Mavic 3, dun dun dun, 0.7 seconds.
Ooh, it's fast.
Oh, it's quick.
Yeah, it's
It
quick.
is quick.
Yeah.
So, round 2
Hmm.
also goes to the Mavic 3E.
It does, yeah. And what that means, in a sense, is that the drone can just, take faster pictures for
Yeah.
mapping,
Yeah. So when it's
which,
on a roll, so to speak,
Mhm.
and it's you're running those mapping missions, it will take those pictures quicker.
Yeah.
Therefore, you know, not substantially reducing the time you're in the air,
Mhm.
but reducing it enough.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, completely agree. So that's shutter speed, and then also the shutter types, because one of the arguments that we always had for the Phantom series was that it's got a mechanical shutter, which typically,
The Pro and the RTK had the mechanical shutter.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Phantom Pro, Phantom 4 Pro always sort of stood out because of that capability,
Yeah.
and that allowed you to take one single snapshot of the scene as a global mechanical shutter, and then ensure that you have less motion blur and you have less sort of issues in terms of just making sure you have enough light being sensed by the pixels and having
Yeah.
a great image. But that particular capability is no longer unique to Phantom 4 Pro, the
Ooh.
Phantoms of the DJI world. So yeah, I guess with the Mavic 3 Enterprise, they have introduced the mechanical shutter, um,
That they have.
which means they are neck and neck with.
Or are they? Because the
Oh,
Mavic 3E
mhm.
also has another camera.
Oh, it does actually. That's a good point.
Yeah. So you've got not only have you got your standard mechanical shutter
Mhm.
camera, it's also got a zoom camera
Yeah.
for those close-up inspections.
Yes. Yeah.
I
So
do
you,
believe it's digital zoom. I
mhm.
can't remember how far it zooms in,
Then
but
a
it's
56 times or
yeah,
something. Yeah.
it's certainly
Yeah.
capable. I know the quality will obviously degrade the closer you get.
Yeah.
But for those shots where you're up there and you think, oh, hang on a minute, what was
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
You can zoom in and have a look, like the bucket.
Yeah. Like the bucket on top of the mill.
Yeah, I could go in and examine the bucket closer
Yeah. Yeah.
whilst being kind of, in the air.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from there, I
Yeah.
suppose we've talked about shutter type.
Yes.
So they're on a par,
Yeah.
maybe with the advantage of the M3E having that extra zoom
Yeah.
camera
Capability.
in their cluster.
Yeah.
You got sensor size.
Yeah.
So the Phantom 4
Yeah.
had the 1-inch sensor
Yeah.
that at the time everyone raved about,
Yeah.
which they then introduced on the Mavic 2 Pro.
Hmm.
So they kind of went, oh, okay, well, if the Phantom 4 can have a 1-inch sensor, we'll chuck it on the Mavic 2 Pro. Everyone raved about that.
Hmm.
And then they went and outdid themselves
Yeah.
by putting a Micro Four Thirds
Yeah.
sensor on the Mavic 3E or
Yes.
the Mavic 3 range in general.
Yeah.
They now have a wider angle lens.
Yeah. They do.
Therefore,
Yeah.
you were able to collect more data.
Yes. More light hitting your
More,
pic.
yeah,
There we go.
yeah,
More pixels, more light, more information,
amping
better
up the
results.
quality.
There we go.
Yeah,
So, oh, it's looking really good for Mavic 3E.
it is. One thing we didn't talk about was megapixels. We need to talk
Yes.
about megapixels. That's one
Yes.
thing we haven't
Yeah.
really thought about.
Well,
So
we could talk about them. I guess they're both 20 megapixel cameras, aren't they?
I do believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're both 20 megapixel, but I think what they've done is for the Mavic 3, Mavic 3E compared to the other Mavics is that the pixel size has increased. So that's the main sort of difference between the Mavic 3E. But I think, yeah, they're both 20
They're both
megapixel
20.
camera. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I
yeah.
had to crowbar that in there. Well, I was
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, and then we thought, oh, hang on, megapixels. We're talking about
Yeah,
megapixels.
yeah. That's a good point. I guess the resolutions are also very similar. I think
Yep.
they are like, 5,000 something pixels by almost 4,000 or 3,900 or something like that, I think.
So in some
Yeah.
respects, for our sensor size, the Mavic 3E wins again.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Even for megapixels, I guess it wins, or is it kind of equal?
Yeah, I think it's just got a bit bigger pixel size, so that per pixel there is just more kind of information.
Let's call that a win.
Yeah,
That
just
sounds like
want to give more points to M3.
This sounds like a win to me.
Yeah.
Go on then. So what's next?
Well, I guess one of the things about both these drones is that they're RTK drones.
Yeah.
And RTK is becoming a big factor in most of the mapping world. And it seems like both these drones are very much specifically targeted for mapping. So I think it's interesting to sort of compare the RTK side of things as well for accuracy of the drone maps and models. So
I mean, I guess that the Phantom 4 has the Phantom 4 RTK, as it's known, has the RTK unit already built in.
Yeah.
On the Mavic 3E, it's an additional bolt-on.
Yeah.
At an additional cost.
Yes.
But it is capable of using RTK. So again, I guess they're equal there.
Yeah.
I guess. Respects.
Yeah, and I think both of them support base stations and custom network modes.
They do indeed.
One thing I would say is that because the Phantom 4 has been out in the wild a lot more in terms of RTK, it had, over the last few years, outside of the Matrice 300 RTK, I would say a Phantom 4 RTK had become somewhat a standard for RTK surveying. So I think the Mavic 3E still has to kind of prove itself in terms of RTK accuracy.
It's going to have to play catch up, isn't it? People, there will be people out there that'll be like, nah, I'll just stick to my Phantom 4 RTK.
Yeah.
I know how it flies.
Yeah.
I know how it collects data. I'll just stick to that.
Yeah. So I think I would give this one to Phantom 4 RTK overall because
controversial. Yeah, I mean it has been out. It's been out longer. Obviously, the RTK unit is already built in.
Yeah.
It's been bench tested for however many years.
Yeah.
I guess the Mavic 3E RTK is gonna take a little while to catch up.
Yeah. Not saying that it can't. I think it will, but it's just as of today, maybe RTK. As you know, with anything new that comes out, you kind of have to make sure that everything works according to spec and everything works as expected. And also the switching cost for workflows and so on and so forth. So I think RTK workflows are pretty well ingrained with the Phantom 4 so far, but that's not to say that they can't be replaced by the Mavic 3 anytime in the future. So
okay. So Phantom 4.
Phantom 4. There we go.
Phantom 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Battery life. Oh yeah, there's quite a hefty difference to this one.
Yeah, that one it is for sure.
So these are DJI specs, not real world specs, because obviously you have to take into account, speed, usability, the weather,
wind,
et cetera, But Phantom 4 RTK, excuse me, 30 minutes. Mavic 3 Enterprise, 45.
Ooh, there we go.
An extra 15 minutes of being in the sky.
Yeah. And we've experienced this ourselves, haven't we? So I think for the last few tests we've done with the M3E, I've always had the feeling that we've gotten quite a few missions done in the same flights. In fact, I think of all of our last few tests, we've never had to replace the battery.
No, I mean,
so much done.
Obviously, I'm in the office today, and we're out doing some Mavic 3E stuff this afternoon. Where's my voice going? It's back. And I came in and I thought, I'll get some batteries on charge. But actually, I've put one on charge because the other two are still charged up.
Yeah.
Now, I know you've been out testing it.
Yeah.
It hardly uses any battery power at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So it's really efficient with respect to the battery. So that's definitely a big plus for the M3E, because battery in our industry is just like gold. The more battery,
yeah, it certainly is.
yeah.
So are we keeping a score here?
We will be keeping score when this is post produced.
Okay. You'll see the score.
There will be a score somewhere on the screen. Yes.
So go on then, Varun. What's the next one?
The next one, so I think one big thing that they've changed with the Mavic 3E is the fact they've added a new remote controller. So this is the smart controller that they first introduced, I believe, with the Mavic 2. Because the Mavic 2 also used to have a smart controller. And also with the Matrice 300, but that was a smart enterprise controller.
They did experiment with the Phantoms, because you could get the controller with the screen, couldn't you? It was the same controller, but it had an attached screen.
Yeah. Well, that's what you still get with the Phantom 4 by default. Yeah. And that's not a smart controller. I think that's just the Phantom 4 controller. I think
it's just got its own. It's got its own screen, which is Android based, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So
anyway, sorry, I rudely interrupted.
No, that's all right. But you could also buy the SDK remote with the Phantom 4.
Yes.
Which I think you can today as well. So I guess the kind of comparison is the smart controller for the Mavic 3E versus the SDK remote / the Phantom 4 controller remote, which is the same as the sort of, the bulk, not bulky, I guess the sort of sturdy, bulky kind of remote controller that you would have in most Phantoms and Inspires. So what do you think about the two controllers?
So, I mean, I've flown with both. So obviously I've flown for quite a long time. So, I've flown with controllers with big screens. I've flown smart controllers. I've flown controllers with small screens. I like the smart controller. It's good. It's an all-in-one package. Everything is there. And I know if you need to, you can attach an HDMI cable to it, or you can attach an HDMI transmitter and have that go to another screen. So the ability to, even though the screen's still quite small, I can't remember how big the screen is on the smart controller. Is it 6.5, 7 inches?
Yeah, it's tiny. That's all I know.
Yeah. So, it's great for portability. Everything's all there. You don't have the additional, don't have to take a tablet with you and extra cables. You just take it out, bosh, it's there.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I do like having a larger screen to be able to see, especially when mapping and inspection. You need to be able to see what you're looking at.
Yeah.
When you're, obviously with Hammer, you'd pull the plan down from your hub, but you still want to see on the screen if there's anything you need to change.
Yeah.
And doing it on a tiny little smart controller is a bit of a mare.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love the smart controller.
Yeah.
But it's the screen size that causes some issues. Even if I was recreational flying or flying for doing something else. Yeah. That screen for me is too small.
100%. Couldn't agree more. I feel the same, where they've solved one problem, which is, you don't need a tablet anymore, but they've created another one, which is now you've got a small screen, which the tablet solved really well, because you could have, a 10-inch tablet if you wanted on your smart controller, and that would do the job. It also means that you can't use iOS anymore.
That's correct.
You've got to use Android.
You have.
I think you can with the DJI Smart Enterprise controller. At least you could attach external tablets, but with the Mavic 3, it's very much just built in. And so I think, I guess I'll have to give this one. This one's a bit tricky, because I feel that, if the screen size was bigger, then the clear winner would be Mavic 3E.
I mean, there is the ability to attach another screen to it, but that kind of defeats the object.
Yeah.
You could attach. I mean, if you wanted to, you could attach it to a 60-inch TV.
Yeah.
With HDMI out, but
you're not going to carry that to the field.
Who drives around with a 60-inch TV in the back of the car? So it's they've solved the portability thing.
Yeah.
So you can, obviously you've got the controller, the screen's built in. You don't have to, fanning around with a separate screen, another cable, making sure the app's working and it's up to date on the tablet, closing everything else off to get it to work, etc., etc. But it's just that screen size; it's too small.
Yeah. The other thing I don't like about the new controller is that because it's got Android, but it's got a modified Android, the way you interface with apps is not the same. You can't swipe apps to close them.
No.
You've got to go to settings to do everything. And it's a pretty like as a computer, it's a pretty powerful computer, but it just doesn't have the same feeling of workability that you have with the tablets,
No, I mean, I'm an Android user. I know you've got an Apple phone. I've got an Android phone, and it's not intuitive.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I've gone from my Android device in my hand to an Android device as a tablet. If you go from your phone to an Android phone to an Android tablet, there's not a lot of difference. You go from an Android phone to the smart controller, it's like, it doesn't feel right. It looks the same, but things work differently.
Yeah. So who should we give this one to?
It's a difficult one.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. Because you've got advantages and disadvantages with both.
Yeah.
Should we say draw?
Call it a draw for this one.
Yeah, I think it's a draw.
This one.
Let's let the audience make their own mind up.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys can make your own mind up. We're drawing this one. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Back to the drone.
Okay. Flyability.
Flyability. Okay.
This is a subject that wrenches at my heart.
Strong opinions on this.
I have some experience on this one. Yeah. So the Phantom 4, whether it be a Phantom 4, Phantom 4 RTK, who hasn't flown a Phantom?
Yeah.
If you've been in the industry for a while, you'd have flown a Phantom. They've been around for such a long time. They were so easy to fly. Straight out the box, whoop, off they go. The controls are smooth and steady. You basically know where to place it. Similar to the Mavic 2. The Mavic 2, just you fly that thing anywhere. It was easy to fly. Inspire 2 can have its moments.
Yeah.
Sometimes she can be a bit twitchy. It's obviously a bigger unit, so it's going to get knocked about a bit. And now I come to the Mavic 3.
Yes.
Whether it be a 3, the 3 Cine, the 3E, the 3 Classic, they all fly the same. Twitchy. Twitchy and aggressive. And I'm not the only one to say it. I've got plenty of colleagues in the industry that also say, she's a twitchy one to fly. A lot of people have said you get used to it. But you shouldn't have to get used to it. You should be able to get it out of the box and go, this flies like everything else.
Exactly.
What I experienced, I know what you experienced as well the first time you flew it.
Absolutely. I had the same feeling. Well, I just feel that with the Mavic 3E, the response time from the stick to the actual movement of the drone, you don't feel, you feel like you have to make very micro movements on the sticks for it to do things. You can't be as sort of free as you used to feel with the Phantoms and the earlier Mavics. With the Mavic 3, a very small movement on the stick can produce a very large results on the actual.
Feels like it needs to be toned down a bit.
Needs to be toned down.
It's the response time's a bit aggressive. I've flown FPV that's feels similar. If it goes like a lunatic through the air. There could be a method of, I have spoken to some of the distributors as well. And I know some units were sent back because people just couldn't get on with how they flew.
I think there might be ways to sort of change the sensitivity of the remote controller, but it is odd that out of the box, that's what you get. And I also feel, particularly where I feel this is a big challenge is, when you've got when you've got sort of a flight where with severe safety issues. So if you got a chopper going past, or you got some form of something in the air, and you got to take instant control, you're not going to be like, well, let me move the stick really slowly. You're going to be like, well, I got to take control.
Yeah.
And those moments, I think I'd really take issue with the fact that
She's overly sensitive. She's a sensitive little soul.
she's too
Is the
sensitive.
Mavic 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's very sensitive.
Yeah.
I wonder if there is a way on the controller
Mhm.
to I'm gonna have a look. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have a look, I think.
Yeah.
After we've had this,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a look and see if there's any way to tone the sticks down a bit.
Yeah.
Because it's just
Yeah.
I mean, when
Yeah.
she flies,
Yeah.
I think the sensors are very sensitive
Yeah.
as well. I've noticed.
Yeah.
If you come into land,
Yeah.
she'll bob. So you
Yeah.
come into land, she'll come down and
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is what the M300 will do as well if you haven't set the sensors up properly.
Yeah.
As I experienced in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
A frightening flight that was. So yeah, in all, I think
we'll have to.
I'm going to have to give it to the Phantom.
We will have to give it to the Phantom.
I am until DJI either bring a firmware release out, or we can figure out a way of toning that little trooper down.
Yeah.
She's quite an angry bird to fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd take flying my Mavic 2 all day, every day over flying a Mavic 3. I hate to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And that's just to clear that off, that is for manual flights.
Yes.
Obviously if you were to compare automated flights, it's completely different, but manual flights matter a lot because you have to take control no matter how automated flights might get. There are scenarios where you have to take control. And
I mean, automated flight. It's gonna react the same pretty much whatever aircraft you've got. But you're right, for safety features, if you have to suddenly take control of the aircraft and she's angry, like an angry wasp, you might find yourself in a bit of shtuck.
Yeah. Okay. So this one goes to Phantom 4 then. And
does.
That brings us on to ongoing support.
Yeah.
So what do we think is the future for support for these drones? Given what we know about DJI drones
we know the Mavic 3 range is fairly new to the market.
Yeah.
They keep releasing different iterations of the same aircraft over and over again. The Mavic 3 Cine, the Mavic 3 Standard, the Mavic 3 Classic, the Mavic 3E, the Mavic 3T, and now very soon coming out is the Mavic 3 Multispectral. So how many more do they want to release?
Yeah.
So support for the Mavic 3 is not going to disappear for a while.
Yeah.
They're only just starting to push it as their probably their sort of consumer / semi-pro / enterprise flagship drone within within that sort of budget. So they won't be canning support for that for a long time.
Yeah.
Whereas the Phantom 4, she's sort of getting pushed to one side.
Yeah.
They're introducing all these bits like bolt-ons and stuff for the Mavic 3.
Yeah.
They're eventually just going to go, you know what, the 4 can just do one. There's no point in having the 4 anymore. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be heading short of it.
It might be heading to the museum, right? Yeah.
That's great drone museum in the sky.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, if the Phantom line is eventually phased out, it would be really interesting because I think it was actually the first Phantom that DJI got DJI noticed. If you think about it, I think I don't know if it was a Phantom drone or it was probably a Phantom that was flown into the White House, which caused a new it caused like lots of waves all over around the world and grief and but also like generally speaking, the first Phantom 1, Phantom 2, where even the cameras didn't feel super integrated, even though they were kind of integrated.
I mean, you had GoPros, didn't you?
You had GoPros.
GoPro to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's interesting to think that that line of drones is now potentially coming to end of
to
life.
an
We don't
end.
know yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've been around for a long time, and it's
Mm.
a lot of people cut their teeth on a
Yeah.
Phantom.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. 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 Same.
That was eight.
I think the first DJI drone I flew was a Phantom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they were just just took it out of the box, and
Yeah.
put the battery in, and
Yeah.
off it went. And you're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
a drone then.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it'll be a shame to see them go, but I think they've probably their shelf life is
Yeah.
probably up.
They've
You
done their
know,
time. Yeah.
with the the fact that you can basically fold a Mavic away
Yeah.
and put it in the box, and then they went, you know what, these are cool, but let's make them even smaller.
Yeah.
And now you've got the Mavic Mini range, which you
Yeah.
can literally put in your pocket.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then you're looking at things like the M30,
Yeah.
which just looks like a Mavic on steroids. It's massive,
Yeah.
but it is basically a big Mavic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think they're starting to go, you know what, that that paved the way for what drones are now.
Yeah.
So I think the Phantom, there's obviously never going to be a Phantom 5.
Yeah.
So I think the shelf life on the Phantom is definitely up.
Yeah. Agree. Yeah. Okay, well, this one's easy then. Mavic 3E wins the ongoing support.
It does. It does indeed.
Which is sort of it's stating the obvious here, but yeah, it kind of is an important consideration if someone's trying to compare these two drones, because who's got a brighter future, right?
Exactly.
What about software support? Because that's another agenda item that you've got to compare. We know the Phantom 4 originally came with its built-in controller.
Yep.
And then it had, I think, GS RTK kind of built in. And then for all the third-party apps, you had to purchase this SDK remote, which you have to purchase a different remote. But it would allow you to put in an iPad, an Android, whatever,
Yeah.
and you could just run whatever app you want. And it would fully support RTK and all of that as well. So that was Phantom 4 RTK, or that is Phantom 4 RTK even today. Mavic 3E for the software support. So
it comes with Pilot 2 already,
yes. Mm-hmm.
which has a mapping product on it, which I'm not going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like
it. You don't like it.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
But that's by the by. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
They are, there is an SDK for it, as we know, because we have integrated Hammer with it, and there are other products out there have also integrated with the with the Mavic 3. So software support wise, I think it's an early aircraft. It's early development, so it's everyone's trying to jump on the bandwagon. It's not easy to start with.
Yeah.
But I think giving DJI a bit of a push, I think software support will become easier.
Yeah.
And will lead on to bigger and better things. It was just initially opening that door.
Yeah. Yeah, agree. And I think that one of the things that I don't know if a lot of the customers watching this or just audience watching this kind of so one of the things that DJI has done with this drone is that they've also changed the way their SDK or their software interface works for third parties.
Don't we just know it?
Don't we just know it? So we, I think, are in the fortunate position to be able to react to that and then, modify Hammer missions to work with the Mavic 3E, which is actually going out this week. So I'm really excited to see what people say. But I think the interesting thing is that is not necessarily true for all third-party apps. So I think if there is a third-party app that your workflows are heavily reliant on for the Phantom 4, it may or may not support the Mavic 3E.
Yeah.
Especially if it's iOS only. So again, we obviously started or launched our Android app last year. We used to be iOS only. But if you're working with an iOS only app for the Phantom 4, very likely it won't be supported on the not very likely, but 100% it won't be supported on the Mavic 3E because it's Android only. So
it's weighing up the pros and cons, isn't it, of what you want to do as an end user.
Yeah.
If you're new to it and you're looking at, getting additional third-party software, then I'd say Mavic 3E. Yeah. If you're already in the throes of doing what you do, and you've been using the Phantom 4 RTK, and that is your workflow, that's how it works, stick with that, make the slow transition over to the M3E as and when the software is going to work and has been fully tested.
Yeah.
That was really grown up of me. I felt really grown up saying that.
There we go.
There was no puns or anything. It was just me explaining how it is.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to say it how it is.
It is, indeed.
So I don't know which one wins in this one. Software support is a hard one to say. As far as I know, there are fewer apps that support the Mavic 3E at the moment. There are more apps that support the Phantom 4, but then you need the SDK remote for those apps to work.
And eventually they'll stop support on the Phantom 4, so you're going to have to upgrade to a Mavic 3. I would probably say draw.
Yeah, I think we'll have to draw this one. There are downsides to both. But there is a bigger future on the Mavic 3E side.
Yes.
And so draw for this one.
Yeah.
Pricing.
Okay, so pricing. So originally the Phantom 4 RTK was quite an expensive bit of kit. You're looking at the $5 to $6 grand mark. I don't know what it is now. I haven't looked. Obviously, you can't buy it from DJI anymore, I don't think. But I expect you can buy it from some resellers. I don't know what it resells at.
Yeah. Same.
But the Mavic 3E is about, these are going on kind of stock prices. We don't sell them or anything like that. Is about £3,000 UK pounds without the RTK unit, and about £3,500 with the RTK unit.
Yeah. So I mean, in some sense, definitely the Mavic 3E is cheaper than what the Phantom 4 was when it came out. So, but yeah, you can't really compare it to the Phantom 4 priced, resold Phantom 4 price.
No.
But also the price difference between them really is so, so small that unless and the fact that I think DJI is notorious for doing this, where they would launch a drone with better capabilities and a better future and a lower price, then it just makes it such a no-brainer for you most of the times.
I would say Mavic 3E is the winner here, because you get so much more for your money. The longer battery life, the better sensor, zoom capability, the ability to have an RTK unit or not have an RTK unit. You can take the RTK unit off and put it away. Worst comes to the worst and you have a crash with the Phantom 4 RTK. That's it. Bye-bye RTK unit. Do the same with the Mavic 3E and you don't have the RTK unit on it. You've saved yourself over 500 quid.
Yeah.
So
and also it impacts the weight on the aircraft as well, right?
Does.
So you could have an impact on the battery life, I would imagine, with more weight on the aircraft. So even if it's tiny, it's tiny.
And it is deadly. It's ridiculous. And it weighs nothing. It really does. I mean, I've had loads of people going, I paid 500 and something quid for this. And it's like that big.
Yeah.
Also it'll affect aerodynamics as well.
Yeah, true. When your drone's got a hat, it's not.
It does look like a little top hat.
A little top hat. Just need some pigtails and off it goes to the
little party drone.
The
old party drone. Yeah. So there you go.
Brilliant. Okay, so that basically summarizes our face-off. Between the Mavic.
Our Friday night punch up between the Phantom 4 RTK and the Mavic 3E.
Yeah, there we go. And I guess in terms of recommendation, you've already said it. If someone's already got a Phantom 4 and a really steady workflow and don't see the risk of switching at the moment, then they probably can hold on to their Phantom 4.
Stick with what you know.
Stick with what they know. But if they're mapping, it also depends on how much mapping they're doing. If they're doing a lot of mapping and really like they could shave off quite a lot of time on every mapping by using this more nimble, foldable drone.
And quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, up your quality of your data.
Yeah. So yeah, it really depends on case by case basis. Nothing is absolute better.
We're not gonna give an overall winner.
Yeah, we're not gonna. Yeah, there is a score.
That's not fair. We've got a score. You guys make your own mind up. But they're both great units. But obviously, one is slightly older than the other.
Yeah, pretty much. And one of the things I should say is that we are looking at doing a case study on the Mavic 3E mapping for construction environments and stockpile measurements. So we will be putting out very soon our sort of results of a test where we map a model stockpile. I'm not going to say what that stockpile is made of, but
I already know.
You already know.
I do, because I'm the one flying it along with your good self.
Yeah.
We'll wait for people to see that.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what people think about it. And in fact, it would be cool to compare some of the volumetric between Phantom 4 and the Mavic 3E at some point, to use it as another parameter to see what how they stack up really. So but yeah, hopefully this was interesting for people.
I'm going to leave people with a question as well.
Yes,
which they can answer in the comments if they want to. Are foldable drones the future of drone technology? Answers below, or comments, or whatever. Have you tried both aircraft? What's your opinion on them? It'd be nice to get some feedback and let us know what you think.
100%. If you've flown both, if you tried both, if you've created mapping missions with both, or any kind of missions really, and if you've produced deliverables with both, it'd be great to sort of see what you think. And if you want us to cover any other specific topic between these drones or any other drones, do let us know as well in the comment section.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully at some point in the future, as we have discussed, we'll have a face-off against the 300 and the 30.
True, yeah. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one.
That's going to be a good punch-up. That'd be a heavyweight punch-up.
Yeah. 100%.
This is phantom weight. See what I did?
This is phantom what?
Phantom weight, but it's going up phantom. It doesn't matter. It's a silly joke. But there you go. There you go. Cool. So there we go. As per usual, comments below. Ring the bell to see when a new video's out. Give us a subscribe. Give us a like. And if you've got any questions or want to ask us anything or any suggestions, you can drop us an email on team@hammermissions.com. There you go.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex.
Happy days. No worries. Cheers, Varun.
Cheers. I'll see you in a bit.
Yeah, catch you soon. We'll catch you this afternoon. Yeah,
catch you this afternoon. Cheers. Bye.
Take it easy. Bye.